Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Transportation and Logistics Workforce Briefing. We are certainly thrilled that you have joined us this morning. So on behalf of myself, Julie Hindle at JAXUSA Partnership, and our partner in this event, CareerSource Northeast Florida, and of course, our virtual host, Jaxport, just want to welcome each of you to today's event. And we want to kick it off with our presentation from the esteemed Robert Peak from Jaxport. Robert is the Chief Commercial Officer at Jaxport. He has some great information to share with us this morning.
All right, thanks, Julie. I appreciate it. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about how Jaxport operates and supports the development, business development efforts of JAXUSA Partnership. And we kind of start with this, and that is that JAXUSA Partnership really has, and Jax Chamber really has 6 targeted industries that they're trying to bring into Northeast Florida that generate a lot of jobs and economic impact. And that's really what our focus is at the port. So we're trying to bring in companies that will bring new jobs to Northeast Florida. So you see on the right there, those are the 6 targeted industries for JAXUSA, Jax Chamber. The first 2 in green, those are the 2 that we work very closely, most closely with JAXUSA Partnership on developing. And that's companies involved in transportation logistics and those involved in advanced manufacturing. We do a little bit of them with life sciences and corporate operations, not so much with the final 2. But as JAXUSA Partnership and Jax Chamber, as they talk to companies all over the country and all over the world and say, would you come to Jacksonville, create a facility here, and employ people, a lot of those companies will say, well, we would like to do that, but we need a city that has a port because we need to import raw materials or export finished product. And then JAXUSA or Jax Chamber will bring Jaxport in and make sure we can have a port component to that. And you see those 3 companies on the left, Centro, Natine, and Constantino. Those are all, that should be Constantino, I spelled it wrong, but those are all 3 companies that recently have announced new operations in Jacksonville. So Centro, you see the vehicle there, the electric vehicle maker that have opened a facility in Jacksonville. Natine makes baby and adult diapers. They've opened a facility in Jacksonville. And Constantino is a Spanish tile company that's going to open a new facility in Jacksonville. And so none of these are located physically at the port. They're all located in Northeast Florida. They bring facilities, they hire local people, but they use the port to import or export their raw materials or finished goods. And so that's kind of our touch point with the Chamber at JAXUSA. You advance the slide for me, Julie. Just briefly who we are. So if you don't know, Florida actually has 15 deep water seaports, and every one of those is locally owned and managed by a local government agency. In Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Port Authority, where I work, we're the local independent government agency that owns and manages the cruise and cargo seaport here in Jacksonville. Hit the slide one more time for me. And we have a 7-member board of directors and 4 members appointed by the governor, 4 appointed by the mayor, 3 appointed by the governor. They serve 4-year terms and they hire a CEO. So we are a local government agency that runs the port facilities and owns the port facilities and works with JAXUSA Partnership to bring in those companies that need to use the port. Julie, one more slide for me there. In terms of our, we'll go back, there we go. Well, in terms of our facilities, we actually have 5 facilities in Jacksonville. We have these 3 you see in blue here, which are cargo terminals. That's where the ships come in and out pretty much 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There could be a ship coming in or out at any one of those 3 facilities. We also have a cruise terminal. We have a railroad yard also in Jacksonville. So those are our facilities. Go to the next slide for me, Julie. Oh, there we just popped. There we go. So what's something important to know about our port is we're what's called a landlord port. So I showed you we have these 3 cargo terminals. We have a rail yard and we have a cruise facility. We have those 5 facilities. Well, the Jacksonville Port Authority, we don't actually run any of the operations at any of those facilities. We lease that property out to a whole network of companies involved in the maritime industry to actually run the day-to-day operations. So my good friends Vivian Patterson from SSA is here, and Vivian's a great example. Vivian works for SSA. SSA is a very important and large tenant of the Jacksonville Port Authority, and they actually lease the property, and they're the ones that coordinate the loading and unloading of the vessels that are coming in and out of the Port of Jacksonville. And we have a whole network of companies that do this at the port. So while we at the Port Authority, we actually don't load or unload ships. We don't actually operate warehousing. We don't operate cranes. We don't drive trucks. And we don't hire any of the people that do. We basically are a landlord that lease the property out to a network of companies that hire the workers that do that, or in turn hire union or non-unionized labor to actually execute the operations of the loading and unloading of the vessels. So we at the Port Authority, we have about 160 employees who truly work for the Jacksonville Port Authority. But we had an economist do an economic impact study a few years ago, and he counted about 26,000 jobs in Northeast Florida that he called port dependent. And that is, these are companies like Vivian's at SSA, companies like Ike Sherlock's, companies that run warehousing, trucking firms, whatever, that really kind of depended upon the port for their operations. And he said he could count about 26,000 jobs that if the port were to disappear tomorrow, someone waved a magic wand, there'd be about 26,000 jobs in Northeast Florida that would either disappear instantly or be a serious threat of having to leave Jacksonville. If you click one more time for me, Julie. So one way of looking at that is this, and that is, so Jaxport, we have these facilities and we have a whole network of companies that use those facilities and operate from it. So we have a whole network of shipping lines, and a few of them based here in Jacksonville, many of them based in Europe or Asia, that bring your vessels to Jacksonville. We have labor, and that is both union and non-union labor that access our terminals to load and unload ships and move cargo around our facilities. We have about 100 trucking firms that access our facilities on a regular basis. We have a whole network of rail facilities and warehouses, logistics providers that all access our facilities to move this freight. And Julie, if you hit the slide one more time for me. And then these are just some examples. I mentioned SSA is a terminal operator. There's all sorts of back office work that's done in terms of marine engineering, environmental support, legal services. There's towing and tugboat operators. There's government agencies like U.S. Customs and Border Protection and U.S. Coast Guard that operate. But the two that I've highlighted is the import-export distribution and manufacturing. And because these are two that we work very closely with the JAXUSA and JAX Chamber of the kinds of businesses that we're trying to bring to Northeast Florida. I showed you a few examples earlier. Hit the slide for me one more time, Julie. I wanted to talk just briefly about this because we get asked about it a lot. A lot of these shipping lines that want to bring their ships to Jacksonville, particularly the container ships, bring the big 20-foot and 40-foot boxes. A lot of them need very deep water in which to operate because those ships have gotten bigger and bigger. And so the federal government last year finished a project to deepen a major section of our shipping channel from about the mouth of the river at the Atlantic Ocean all the way through our Blount Island terminal to a depth of 47 feet. It was 40 feet, and now it's 47 feet. And now we can have much, much larger cargo ships coming into and out of the Port of Jacksonville carrying goods. And a lot of the companies that are coming to Jacksonville that are opening these import distribution centers, some of them opening manufacturing facilities, they need access to those ships to move those goods. So we had to deepen the harbor so those ships could actually navigate into the St. Johns River to carry goods to support these businesses trying to locate in Northeast Florida. Hit the slide for me twice. Hit it one more time for me, please. So this was the biggest ship that's one of the biggest ships that's come to the Port of Jacksonville since we deepened the shipping channel. This was the MV. This was the One Stork. It had the capacity to carry over 14,000 containers. And this ship and its sister ships on the service, it comes in about once a week, carrying goods to and from